Hello there, welcome back to my world of stuff. I'm just doing a very quick video. It's Friday night. I'm in my office rather than in the cinema room. Just for some thoughts on the Doctor Who Children in Need special, Destination Skaro, which aired this evening by 8 o'clock. Followed, more recently, by a 15-minute Doctor Who Unleashed, the making of that particular 5-minute skit. I have some concerns, more specifically about that than the episode itself. Now, when this thing was announced a couple of weeks ago, it was promised it was going to be a proper drama. It's not a comedy, it's a proper full-blooded, properly produced drama. It wasn't, it was a comedy skit. And it was vaguely entertaining, vaguely amusing. It's basically set on Skaro. The Doctor, the newly regenerated Doctor, crash lands there, just as Davros, the scientist, has perfected the Dalek travel machine with an extravagant sort of arm, not the sucker arm that we're usually used to. Struggling to find a name for it, his aide suggests a lot of comedy alternatives. Doctor emerges from the TARDIS, recognises it as a Dalek, and then gives the inspiration for the name Dalek, pulls out the grasping arm thing and replaces it with a sucker, and mentions about exterminating. The idea is that the Doctor named the Daleks, gave them the sucker arms, and initiated their catchphrase "exterminate." All very funny, I suppose. if you like your Doctor Who funny. As I've said in the past, I've no problem with Doctor Who being witty. I think it's a function of any drama to have some wit in it now and again. I always felt that Stephen Moffat went too far, and this, I must admit, this was the sort of thing you can imagine Stephen Moffat writing, and it was written by Russell T Davies, putting a huge sledgehammer to Doctor Who continuity, I suppose. But it was sort of, it was what it was. It was nice to see Julian Bleach playing Davros in a human form. And this is what I'm taking issue with. It's a difficult thing to sort of talk about because it could be taken the wrong way. In the Unleashed 15-minute section, as you probably know, there's going to be this new Doctor Who Unleashed series airing after each Doctor Who episode, in a similar manner to Doctor Who Confidential back in the olden days, 2005 onwards, looking behind the scenes and talking to people making the series. And we had a 15-minute one for this episode, which was the usual sort of fluff introduced by some slightly irritating Welsh guy. But it showed, broadly speaking, the making of the thing. Now, what concerns me, there's a segment of Russell T Davies talking about Davros. Now, Davros, as I said, is portrayed as a man, portrayed very well and very threatening by Julian Bleach, who's portrayed Davros in modern Doctor Who, but not in his life support wheelchair-type contraption, if you like. And Russell T Davies, on this Doctor Who Unleashed programme, got quite aerated, to an extent, discussing the fact that he had concerns about Davros being portrayed in a wheelchair because of connotations of people in wheelchairs being associated with evil. And he was quite adamant, and he and his production team quite adamant, that they weren't going to portray Davros like that. That's not what Davros is now going to be. He's not going to be in his life support. He's not going to be in his wheelchair. He's going to be a man. Which throws a massive spanner in Doctor Who continuity and actually disrupts one of the great classic Doctor Who stories. I understand where he's coming from. I understand that, as he says, times have changed, things have moved on. But I'm an adult, and I understand that people in wheelchairs aren't evil, but I think it's a bit odd to say that you can't suggest that somebody from another planet, an alien, in what is not a wheelchair, it's a life support machine, cannot be an evil person because of associations. This is an example of what people are getting annoyed about these days, this sort of sensitivity, touchy-feeliness. I don't like the word woke, but sometimes you grasp in the air for a word and that one comes to pass. It just seems like an incredibly woke thing to suddenly reinvent one of the most important characters in Doctor Who history and say no, you can't have him on a life support system because it suggests that people in wheelchairs can be evil. It's nonsense, frankly, and I admire Russell T Davies. I love his writing, I love his wit, I love his enthusiasm. I think he's wrong. I think he's wrong here, because it suggests an element of naivety in the audience, which I don't think is there. Doctor Who's audience is sophisticated. I don't think Doctor Who's audience is going to see Davros in a wheelchair and then see somebody in the street and think they're evil because Davros is in a wheelchair or life support system. I think he's wrong. It's as simple as that. Now, and I'm not speaking as in any other way than a Doctor Who fan who respects the legacy of the character Davros, respects what that character was when he was created in 75, and just to say that the world has changed, you can apply that to anything and everything. And where do we go next in these extremes of touchy-feelingness and not wanting to offend people and not wanting to challenge people's sensibilities? And I think it's actually left a slightly bitter taste in my mouth about Russell T Davies coming back and what's coming up in Doctor Who. Now, I know he's a very political writer, he's a very socially aware writer, and we know the sorts of things he's dealt with in the past and the sorts of things he's going to deal with in the new series. We know that Rose is the new Rose, Donna's daughter, is going to be a trans character. That's fine. There's going to be lots of stuff which old school Doctor Who fans are going to find unpalatable or difficult to cope with. I'm not, because I am open-minded and I understand that the world has changed, but I do think that changing the very nature of one of the most important supporting characters in Doctor Who is wrong. Basically, it's wrong. So yeah, I've gone away from the little mini episode itself because it was just a silly little skit. But I think that the implications of what Russell said in The Unleashed are slightly worrying, because if he's reinventing such a major character in such a major way unnecessarily, you do wonder what else he might be doing now he's got that sort of ultimate power. So it has, I have to say, it has taken a slight bit of the shine off his return to the show. I'm sure he'll do some good work, but if he's prepared to do something like this, I'm not sure. So yeah, these are just off the top of my head thoughts about all this. Let me know what you think. Leave a comment down below what you thought of the mini episode and what you think of this reinvention of Davros. Now it appears we have to accept that Davros was never in a life support machine. He was always Julian Bleach in a Khaled military suit or something. I don't know, it doesn't sit well with me. And I'm not one who worries that much about canon. I mean, I was quite happy with the Timeless Child thing, and I think I've put up my explanations of how I think that's a good thing for Doctor Who. But I think that reinventing characters based on modern social mores is unnecessary, frankly. And if you look back, I mean, are we going to have evil people at all? Are we going to suggest that evil people don't exist? I don't know where it's going, but it's certainly food for thought, and it's left me trepidatious of the future. Anyway, that's just my off-the-cuff thoughts. Let me know what you think. I'll see you soon until I do. Keep taking the stuff.